if I could do my little small part is letting people know that, you have a say-so and a part in creating value.
Yeah.
Not just art, not just, whatever you're doing, but you have an active role and in some ways an active responsibility.
Yes.
To create that value for your community, for yourself, and for just the world in general.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this was fire. All right, how's your day going, brother?
Going good.
Awesome.
Get things done. It's a pretty good day.
Let's
it's
go.
cold, but it's good.
Let's go. And then your name?
David Weathersby.
And then you're a producer and filmmaker?
Producer and director of documentaries, mostly ethnographic documentaries.
Okay.
With, less, not as public communities, cultures throughout, especially Chicago. So just kind of telling or allowing them to tell their stories.
Okay.
Through documentaries.
And so how long have you been doing that?
I have been full-time doing it since about 2016, 2015 was when I started. I was a videographer, which led to this.
Mm-hmm.
Since, I was like 2002, 2003, somewhere around in there.
Yeah.
So,
What'd you do before that?
Mostly that film is something I always wanted to do, but I was too scared to do it.
Yeah.
So it was just like a lot of little side job stuff that was just trying to pay the bills until I could figure out a way to get into what I wanted to do. So it was just job after job until I had the courage to say, I'm just going to do it.
Okay. Now, are you a native, would you say Illinoisan?
Not native, but yeah, this is my home. I came here it was about 98.
Okay.
And one of the things that's maybe wanted to get in the film was being in this area.
Yeah.
And seeing so many just different communities, stories, history. I don't like using the term subcultures.
Okay.
Because the connotation, but seeing all these different communities is one of the things that made me really want to take the plunge. I always wanted to be in film, but being here, living in the Chicagoland area, being around Chicago, really gave me the motivation and courage to really want to do it.
Okay. And then what's your most popular work then? Like what's up until now? What has done the best for you?
The best right now would probably still be a project I did, a documentary called The Debauchery Ball. We just really released the director's cut of it.
Okay.
The Debauchery Ball tells the story of this 18-year now running house music party that combines Afrofuturism, kink, BDSM, and house music. Okay. All in one party annually.
Yeah.
And it's become this kind of it has an identity of its own. It's got a following that just people just love it, and it's just it's all those things.
Is it just so it's just a crazy, like euphoric type of music?
Yeah, it's a house music party, but it's also because it's kink and BDS themed, so you have people playing in certain areas. Some people are just listening to music.
Yeah. Some
people are somewhere in between. Everybody's in cosplay, lingerie, kink wear.
Yeah.
In the building, and it's just kind of it's kind of a freedom. The kink and BDSM world is a little bit different for the black community than it is for other people. So this is a spot where people can kind of explore, find out where they are, or just listen to the DJ.
Okay.
All points in between.
Now, what other type is that? Your niche of like film and documentaries that you make, or is there other different areas that you do as well?
I do a lot of stuff that has to deal with black sexuality and just sexual health and things of that nature. But I do everything. My main is just ethnographic about communities. Like the one I did after that was it's called It's Different in Chicago, which dealt with the history between the hip hop community in Chicago and the house music community in Chicago.
Okay.
And how they sometimes complement each other, sometimes they conflicted, but it represented kind of the community and the city itself more than instead of just two different music genres.
Yeah.
And so telling that history, told the first feature one I did was called Color of Art, and that was about black visual artists on the South Side who created this kind of ecosystem of art where black artists, black galleries back in, they kind of created their own ecosystem to support each other.
Yeah.
With art, with visual art.
Okay.
And so those are the kind of projects that I've done and that I do.
What does this year hold for you? What are the plans for this year?
This year I'm working on a project I've been working on for a while. It's my first animated documentary, which is
Okay.
that's a whole new world because
Yeah.
it's like you have to approach it very differently than any other project I've done. So
Yeah.
that's this year. First documentary series is this year. So yeah, so this year is a lot of changes and a lot of coming out of the comfort zone.
And what platforms do all your documentaries get released on?
Most of there's a couple of them are on different streaming services. Usually, I go through what they call the festival circuit first. There's a number of festivals you go through when you have a new project because you can learn a lot about where your project should be by the response from the festivals, and things like that, and they create opportunities. I would always recommend somebody, even if you are going directly, if you're trying to get distribution. Festivals do serve a purpose. They do because you get feedback, you interact with audience. It introduces you to some new audience and some new people that you might not meet. So
And so, what about the next 5 to 10 years? What's that look like for you?
Next to 5-10, God, I'll still probably be working this. I have this list of projects that I'm working on.
Yeah.
And so I'll probably be right at the tail end of that list in about 5 years. But as far as goals, is just basically getting them, finding that one deal, that one distribution home for them, whether that's a home that, negotiate with somebody or a home I create, something that we create on our own.
Yeah.
And then and just making sure that the people who need to see it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. A lot of times, sometimes you get, and the people who are part of it still have access to it. Because sometimes that happens in documentaries. So somebody will come into a community, do a documentary about them, and then take off, and then it's everywhere. But the people who are the subjects are like, have no connection to it, except for if they get to see it sometimes. So I want to make sure that our projects stay connected to the communities that help bring it about.
What inspired you to get into filmmaking and then documentaries, and then specifically the niche that you work within?
Always fascinated with stories.
Yeah.
I think you find the most about people in a society, a culture, whatever, by the story. Mm-hmm. What they feel is important enough to retell.
Yeah.
What they feel is important enough to write down, to document. So that's why I was always drawn to stories, because I felt like you learned about humanity, you learned about yourself through the stories that we value. And so, and that for me, I didn't realize I was going to be documentary because I watched, everything, I was always a film and television buff, I was a little kid with action figures. I didn't just play with action figures. I made up like full stories. And there was a backstory for every character. There was a whole scenario, and broken up into episodes and stuff like that. So stories were always key for me, but I didn't really know how I was going to get into it. And then after a while, after I started doing videography work and started getting into it and built up enough courage, and then made the transition over to just doing documentaries full time. And then that's where.
Is there a filmmaker that you looked up to, or that you do look up to the most?
Actually, I don't have one. I take a little bit from everybody.
Yeah.
I kind of avoid saying one person because it kind of makes it, you start mimicking. So there are a lot of people from a lot of genres, but I know that sounds weird, but I kind of avoid saying.
No, that makes sense.
This one person is my inspiration, because everybody.
You want to diversify.
It's a composite.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm just like, to me, it's more genres for me. Everything from film noir to of course documentaries, dramas. Like avant-garde kind of art films and stuff like that, to comedies like that. Those genres, those kind of inspired me more than any one director.
And avant-garde, correct me if I'm wrong, that definition of art is more so just kind of beauty within itself, like beauty in the eye of the beholder?
It's kind of a catch-all phrase, for just anything that, for a lot of people use it for anything that they feel is artsy.
Artsy, yeah.
Yeah, like that. But there's more to it than anything. But those films that get labeled avant-garde, I do enjoy them because they're expanding the visual part of it.
Yeah.
They're expanding it. What you can do visually.
Yeah.
Which side of films? Most films do that. They speak with the visuals, but they're trying and experimenting and doing stuff and breaking rules, and that's what I enjoy about with the films I watch with them. Even though it might not take the exact technique or something like that, but I do like anybody who understands a rule, but then knows when to break it.
Yeah,
and I respect people who do that.
Yeah, makes sense. So. Now, do you have a whole film crew? Like, do you do all the editing? Do you do the directing? Do you do the recording as well? Like,
yeah, most times I don't have a crew. Most time is this start off like I said, since I was a videographer, I had a lot of equipment. I was used to kind of like having a camera, having audio, and just kind of be running gun and be there. So I kind of converted that system to my films. Yeah, which allows me to get freedom. So yes, I do. I shoot, I edit, sound, most stuff. There are things that I like. Have other people do the composing. I do, there's some footage, like if it's like a jib or a special drone that I don't have or something like that. Then I bring people in for projects and things like that. So there is people that I go to, but for the most part, it's me with my camera, with a concept, and then get into editing and then trying to add or take away from that for whenever I was doing, I was shooting.
What camera do you mainly use?
Right now, I'm on a Sony A7. It's actually A7 III. Yeah. I'm about to go get up to the A7 V, but the A7 III is
that might be the. I don't know if that's the A7.
I think I was looking at. I think that might be. I can't tell, but yeah, it's in the family. It's definitely a Sony A7.
Yes.
But yeah, love that camera. Matter of fact, the reason why I started using it was for debauchery ball because if you know anything about house music events, they do not like do not like turning on lights.
Yeah, no.
So I had to have something, and I didn't want to have this big huge mounted light because it took people out. Like seeing this big huge spotlight on them. Yeah. So I needed something that was really good with low light and so that's where I got it, and just kind of fell in love with the whole Sony A7 world since then. Yeah, so the lenses I get are designed for that and editing and all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
that makes sense. So now, what? I guess I kind of want to dive into what are some of your favorite films and maybe more so like movies or documentaries, things like that, if you keep track.
As far as documentaries, odd because I do a lot of stuff, but one of my favorite documentaries that if I were to say something inspired me, this was one. There was a documentary made a while called King of Kong. Okay. And King of Kong is basically about these guys who are competing for the world national champion of Donkey Kong. Okay. And it's like these guys, and it's just and hearing that, think where's the story there? But it's fascinating because what makes that documentary is the people. Yeah. They're so committed to this. They believe in it. It's something serious. You have this one guy who's just basically a family man who just plays and he's just really good. Another guy who's kind of built a brand around it. And then there's a guy who's created the league and he's passionate about this competition. And that film really showed me, that it's really about not just the story, but the people. If you find an interesting person with an interesting story, you got yourself a documentary. I think sometimes people are like, it has to be a certain topic. It has to have this well-known person. It has to have that. And none of that's true. I think you have to have interesting. It's like anything else in life. An interesting person with an interesting story can garner attention. And so that's why I think that documentary really stands out for me because it really showed me that it's just guys playing Donkey Kong. Yeah,
so that's nuts. So what about maybe things outside of film? Like, what are some of your hobbies or things that you do outside of your day-to-day, your work and your film?
For me, I'm kind of weird because everything kind of ties back into it. Yeah, me, it's history and culture. I'm real big on, I don't know what the word is for, but it's just basically finding new spots and historical spots around, especially around say Chicago, because it's just full of stuff like that. Yeah. So that's basically, if I'm not shooting, that's what I'm doing. I'm basically looking for a venue or something that has a historical story. Yeah. Or has a historical story, but it has has a story behind it, a restaurant or something like that.
Yeah.
And being a part of that experience. And then that, if ironically, actually comes back to being work, because that's how I find stuff like that. But I find that's what I end up doing on my free time.
Yeah.
I love history, but I love active history. I love to see where is that point? Where is it now?
Yeah.
What was the result of it? So my weekends are basically just out hearing about some obscure thing from a friend and checking it out. And that could be anything from a restaurant to a park to a gallery to a building to anything, and just explore and finding out what is the story behind it.
Absolutely.
So,
what's your favorite historical monument or area in Chicago? Do you have a place that's really just hit you and impacted you over the years?
I love Bronzeville.
Yeah.
I love the history of Bronzeville and all that went through, and all the people that have gone through Bronzeville.
What are some of the things that's happened in Bronzeville?
Well, the thing about Bronzeville is a lot of times Bronzeville is called, people kind of joke or say it's kind of like the Harlem of Chicago. Mm-hmm. And it really was. And a lot of people don't really realize about what they call the Harlem Renaissance. It was definitely a Harlem Renaissance, but that was basically a Renaissance that was across the country. Every major city was having that kind of Renaissance moment. Mm-hmm. So in Chicago, that place was Bronzeville. So people think about like a Nat King Cole or a Duke Ellington playing in New York or something like that. But when they came to Chicago, they came to Bronzeville. They were coming to this area. And so Bronzeville was this area where a lot of artists were found and created and went back and forth. And it's kind of like a lesser known hub of Black history and Black culture, Black music and everything. And a lot of times it's, I think it needs more, shine on what its part was at that time.
Yeah.
That this was a national thing. And then a lot of the people that we see now came through Bronzeville. But most people, you go across the country, around the world, you say Harlem, people know Harlem.
Yes.
You say Bronzeville, not as many people don't know
idea.
Bronzeville is, that its impact is. So that's my neighborhood. That's the neighborhood where I did a lot of growing, a lot of learning, met some just amazing people, learned some history. So that's probably my.
Where do you know where Kanye was from?
I don't know where he's. It's south. I forgot the neighborhood, but
What are your thoughts on Kanye?
I think he's somebody who definitely needs some help.
Yeah.
I've heard the argument both sides where people was like, he has a mental illness and sometimes it's just him. Either way, in my personal opinion, it shouldn't be fed.
Yeah.
If he needs help, then he needs to get help. If he's just this person, that either way, all the stunts and everything should not be fed.
Yeah.
And so whatever his issue is, I think we all do a disservice by treating it like it's just old Kanye kind of thing.
Yeah.
If he has something wrong, then that needs to be addressed. If it's just who he is, fine. Then that needs to be
not fed.
Right. Whatever it is that's behind all this should not be fed.
Yeah.
So.
No, I completely agree. At a certain point, it just goes too far. You know what I mean? It's like, I think, because hearing the term avant-garde, I've heard that since a young age, and from my understanding, it was art is pretty much in the eye of the beholder, and so it's like you could almost look at how you communicate as a way or a form of art, obviously with musicians and things like that. So you take somebody like Kanye, and it's like how I'm expressing myself could be classified as art. But I think once you start to really start to just compromise history and really just it's almost like an act of violence. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It really is, because I'm not one to say people shouldn't be able to express themselves and have freedom of speech, because I believe in freedom of speech. But at the same time, there's certain things that are unacceptable.
Right, and there's a responsibility behind freedom of speech.
Yes.
So it's like that. So if he says this, the responsibility has to be there.
Yeah.
And so and that's what I think. that's I think that's just kind of missing is that that's why I keep going back to. You just can't feed that.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good lesson just for life in general, for just the listeners to kind of dissect and look at just things in life. You know what I mean? Whatever you feed is going to grow. Mm-hmm. If you feed hate will grow. If you feed positivity will grow. So, right. A very good way to analyze your life is, what am I feeding, and what exactly am I feeding? That source or whatever it might be. So that's a good thing that you brought up there. Mm-hmm. What I'm curious about is, who influenced you the most growing up? Was it what was there a mom, a dad, like who influenced you? Was it a sibling? Who influenced and kind of molded you into the man you are today?
Oh, it's my mom.
Your mom?
That's she's still my hero.
Okay.
That is just,
you guys still tight?
Oh yeah, we are there, because that was my superhero. I never met anyone as bold and ingenious and just the energy and the drive as her. I mean, she always found a way, and then as I got older, found out what her role in kind of like, civil rights movement, how she had desegregated things. And so finding out about her is just like, that's always been my hero. And that's always been the go-to. Like I tell people all the time, if I wake up every day and my mom and Black Twitter are cool with me, I'm having a good day. That's all. I want to stay on the good side of those two.
Yes.
So
I love that.
So
now, were you close with your dad growing up?
We were a little bit. It wasn't. They got divorced, and then so I saw my dad here and there. We were very different people.
Okay.
We were very different people. Then it took a few years to kind of realize that.
And
realize it's that use the word, it is what it is. It's okay. Some people are just different, even if you're related.
Yes.
You're just we just don't see eye to eye on stuff like that. And so it's once kind of that was established, we were able to kind of just
be cordial.
Yeah.
What did your mom do for work growing up?
She was, at first she was real estate. Then I think she was a broker for a while, and then she was a housing inspector for a long time.
Okay.
And then so she always stayed in the real estate world.
Yes.
But being her, she got in there. She unionized.
Yeah.
The inspecting. She did a lot of stuff. So her activist side came through in the industry. Like I remember her union battles, and so hearing about them, and so so that's what she did. But who she was came through.
Yeah, that's awesome. And kind of, I guess a side topic, just me being a foodie. What are some of your favorite restaurants in Chicago?
Oh man, that's tough. Having to pick one place. Oh, that's almost unfair because there's so many places.
Yeah.
Like I like Peaches. I like Chicago's chicken and waffle. I like. Oh man, there's so many. I will say this about places, even while I'm drawing a blank on name. I had a friend of mine when I first moved here, and he said, I don't eat at a place that looks too clean.
Yeah.
He said the more cracks in the wall, the harder it is to find.
Yeah.
Probably the food's gonna be better.
A little more authentic and heartier.
Right. And even though I'm drawing a blank on names, I do believe in that philosophy. It's like sometimes the hole in the wall place.
Yeah.
Man, will just.
Yeah.
It's not really there, but like old fashioned donuts. That place, I've never had anything like that before.
Yeah.
I passed it 3 times because I couldn't find it I didn't know where the door was. But once I found it, I didn't see the big sign right above me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that place is amazing.
And they only do donuts?
Yeah, they do donuts and fritters.
About to look it up.
But they are kind of like a Wild Hundreds. They're kind of like, it's almost like a community version of Krispy Kremes because the guy's making them in the window.
Okay.
And so the community, when they see him in the window, they know they're fresh.
Is this in South Loop?
Yeah, it's at the Wild Hundreds kind of neighborhood. So
This isn't at Soldier Field, is it?
No, like 100, was it 112, 100, 111, something, somewhere around down there. I think it's like 112, 113, I can't remember the exact, but it's down there. But
well, I guess my next question is more so in regard to just Chicago in general and just how Chicago's evolved over the years. How do you what are your projections for Chicago this year as a community and as a, Chicago really feels like it has its own identity,
yep.
Outside of just being here, just even the last 2 years. It's like, I feel like Chicago's its own body within the states. So,
well, that's very true, and that's what drove me. That's what kind of what did that, because Chicago is very unique. There's things that like don't that are very unique to Chicago. Like the last documentary I did, the name of the documentary is different in Chicago.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, that identity, what I see in the next years, I'm seeing more and more people recognize that.
Yeah.
And are willing to articulate that out loud and really, cultivate it, protect it, document it. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see people saying, we need to preserve this. We need to, not looking over at the neighbor's grass or taking it for granted. I'm seeing a lot of people just really say, hey, this is unique. And it's special. I was on a Q&A and it's like people realize like, yes, we make art, but we also make value. You have the power to create the value for the things that you want.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting for somebody else to say, okay, this is valuable now you can go be a part of it. No, you determine what's valuable to you. And I see that throughout the city. I see that through the people I work with, that they're starting to, I mean, they always did, but I'm seeing more of an emphasis on that value, on that protection, that documentation, that pride and everything. And so I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it.
Well, as we start to wrap up, is there anything else on your mind you want to share about your projects, yourself, who you are, the future, or any current topics out there in the world?
Oh, wow. It's like, because I guess I should just stay on the point, because the projects I'm working on now are kind of, it's basically back to the same thing I said. We create the value, sometimes the story that you're looking for could be right next door to you.
Yeah. Don't
underestimate what's in front of you, chasing something that you think is big and popular, and this person has made it because they've been on this and done this. I think, it's like I've always talked about, it's like we need to kind of redefine success, redefine fame. What is that for you? Because if your still concept of success and fame and money is somebody else's, is it really yours? If you really want success and everything, you should have a role in determining what is success.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, okay, I'm going to shoot for this, now I'm successful. Well, you just basically did what everybody told you was successful.
Yeah.
So I think, I think for me, it's kind of, if I could do my little small part, is letting people know that, you have a say-so and a part in creating value. Yeah. Not just art, not just, whatever you're doing, but you have an active role, and in some ways an active responsibility.
Yes.
To create that value for your community, for yourself, and for just the world in general.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this was fire. Where can people find you or find your projects, whatever you want to shout out?
Most of the stuff I go through my company, and I'll preface this right now, I am no web designer, so
yeah,
but it's up.
Yes.
cityvanguard.com. That's the name of my production I got there. For Debauchery Ball, there's debaucheryball.com, debaucheryballdoc.com. There's two for the web. For the thing. So those are the main ones where you can find pretty much everything we're doing. Anything new is coming up, I post it there.
Okay.
I mean, I'm on social media, so if you search David Weathersby or City Vanguard, I'm pretty much on all of them.
Good.
Except for Snapchat, because I have no idea what to do on Snapchat. I don't know. I know it's old, but I'm old. I don't know what the hell to do with Snapchat.
All right. Well, David, this was fire. It was phenomenal having you on. Thank you for sharing your time with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing and creating value out there for the world through your documentaries. And please go check out Debauchery Ball. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Have a good one.